Ever notice how those motivation bursts that get you all fired up on Monday are completely gone by Wednesday? That's because motivation is massively overrated. What actually works is something entirely different, and I'm about to show you what it is. Those inspirational quotes you save, those pump up videos you watch, that initial excitement when starting something new, they all feel amazing. But they share one major problem: they don't last. Today, I'm going to break down why motivation is an unreliable strategy for long term success and reveal what the most successful people on the planet use instead. By the end of this video, you'll understand why chasing motivation is actually holding you back and exactly what to implement in its place. This isn't just theory. I'll share practical steps that have transformed my life and countless others. Let's dive in. Why motivation is fundamentally flawed. The reason most people fail to achieve their goals isn't a lack of desire, it's their over-reliance on motivation. Think about it. How many times have you started something with incredible enthusiasm, only to abandon it a few weeks later? That new diet, that coding course, that business idea. The pattern is painfully predictable. Here's why motivation consistently fails us. Motivation is based on emotions, and emotions are inherently unstable. They rise and fall like waves, influenced by everything from how well you slept to what you ate for breakfast. When you base your actions on something as changeable as feelings, you're building on quicksand. The science confirms this. Researchers at University College London found that motivation operates through dopamine signals in the brain, the same neurotransmitter involved in addiction. These dopamine hits give us that initial rush when starting something new, but they quickly diminish as activities become familiar. This is why the excitement of day 1 almost never carries through to day 30. I discovered this the hard way. 3 years ago, I was determined to get in the best shape of my life. I watched motivational videos, created a vision board, and started with incredible intensity. I was at the gym at 5 a.m. every day for exactly 8 days. Then one morning I woke up, felt tired, and thought, I just don't feel like it today. That one decision became 2, then a week. Then I abandoned the goal entirely. The motivational approach also creates another problem: the all or nothing mentality. When motivation is high, you go all in. Extreme diets, 3-hour workouts, working until midnight. Then, when motivation inevitably crashes, you do nothing at all. This roller coaster doesn't lead to progress. It leads to burnout and disappointment. Let me be clear. Motivation isn't completely useless. It serves as an excellent spark. But treating it as fuel for your journey is where the problem lies. Motivation makes a terrible fuel because it constantly needs to be replenished, and the supply is unpredictable. There's another critical flaw in the motivation mindset. It focuses on feelings rather than results. When you're always asking, do I feel like doing this? Instead of, what will get me the results I want? We optimize comfort and not growth. And growth, by definition, happens outside your comfort zone. Think about successful people you admire. Did they achieve remarkable things by waiting until they felt like putting in the work? Of course not. They succeeded because they built something far more powerful than motivation. The alternative: systems over motivation. What's the alternative to motivation? Systems. While motivation is about how you feel, systems are about what you do regardless of feelings. A system is a predefined process you follow consistently. It removes decision-making from the equation. You don't ask yourself if you feel like writing today. Your system says you write from 7 to 8 a.m. every weekday, period. You don't debate whether you have the motivation to exercise. Your system says Tuesday is strength training day, so that's what happens. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, puts it perfectly. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. This insight transformed how I approach everything in my life. Look at any elite performer in any field. They don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. Professional athletes don't skip practice when they're not feeling it. Writers don't wait for inspiration to write. They show up day after day because their systems demand it. Consider Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps. His coach, Bob Bowman, created an elaborate system that governed virtually every aspect of Phelps's training. When asked about motivation, Phelps once said, There were times when I didn't want to get in the water, but I knew it was part of the process. His 23 Olympic gold medals weren't the result of motivation. They were the result of systems. Systems work because they leverage a fundamental truth about human psychology. We are creatures of habit. Our brains are wired to follow routines. By creating systems, you're working with your brain's natural tendencies rather than fighting against them. Another advantage of systems is that they compound over time. Motivation might get you to work out intensely for 3 days, but a system that gets you moving consistently, even if less intensely, will produce dramatically better results over months and years. When I switched from a motivation-based approach to a systems-based approach with my fitness goals, everything changed. Instead of waiting to feel motivated to exercise, I established a non-negotiable 30-minute workout slot at 7 a.m., 4 days a week. Even on days when I absolutely didn't feel like it, I showed up. Some workouts were amazing, others were just going through the motions. But the consistency produced results that motivation never could. How to build effective systems. Building effective systems isn't complicated, but it does require a different mindset than what most people are used to. Here's how to create systems that make success almost inevitable. First, start absurdly small. One of the biggest mistakes people make is creating systems that are too ambitious. Remember, the goal isn't to impress anyone. It's to create something sustainable. If you want to build a writing habit, don't start with, I'll write 2,000 words daily. Start with, I'll write one paragraph each morning. Make your initial system so easy that it would feel ridiculous not to do it. As Stanford researcher B.J. Fogg explains in his Tiny Habits method, when a behavior is easy enough, motivation becomes irrelevant. Second, anchor your system to existing habits through habit stacking. This powerful technique involves attaching your new habit to something you already do automatically. For example, after I pour my morning coffee, I will write one paragraph. Or, after I take off my work shoes, I will immediately change into workout clothes. This works because you're leveraging the neural pathways of established habits to build new ones. Your existing habits serve as reliable triggers, eliminating the need for motivation or willpower. Third, design your environment to support your system. Motivation relies on willpower, but systems rely on environment. Want to read more? Keep books visible in every room. Want to eat healthier? Prep vegetables in clear containers, at eye level in your fridge. Want to exercise in the morning? Sleep in your workout clothes and place your shoes right beside your bed. The power of environmental design was demonstrated in a famous study where researchers found that people ate 22% more popcorn when given larger containers, regardless of how hungry they were, or how the popcorn tasted. Your environment shapes your behavior far more than motivation ever could. Fourth, implement immediate accountability. Systems thrive on feedback loops. Track your adherence to your system in a visible way. This could be as simple as marking an X on a calendar each day you follow through, or as sophisticated as using habit tracking apps. When I started my morning writing system, I created a simple spreadsheet to track my daily word count. The visual progress became addictive, and missing a day felt physically uncomfortable. That's the power of tracking. It transforms abstract systems into concrete evidence of your identity. Fifth, build failure proofing into your systems. Even the best systems encounter obstacles. The key is to plan for these inevitable disruptions with if-then contingencies. For example, if I can't go to the gym in the morning, then I'll do a 10-minute bodyweight workout at home. Or if I'm too tired to write 500 words, then I'll write just one paragraph. These contingency plans ensure that temporary disruptions don't become permanent derailments. Sixth, optimize for consistency, not intensity. A common mistake is creating systems that require maximum effort every time. This approach is unsustainable. Instead, design systems where showing up is the primary goal, and intensity is secondary. Consider the never miss twice rule. If you miss one day of your system, that's fine. Just never miss 2 in a row. This approach acknowledges human imperfection while preventing temporary lapses from becoming permanent failures. Let me share how I applied this to learning Spanish. Rather than vowing to study intensely whenever I felt motivated, which led to sporadic, ineffective learning, I created a simple system: 15 minutes of Spanish practice every day immediately after breakfast. Some days I'd get in the flow and study for an hour. Others I'd do just the minimum 15 minutes. But the consistency produced impressive results. I became conversational within 6 months, something years of motivation-based learning had failed to achieve. The psychology behind systems. Understanding why systems work better than motivation requires diving into the psychology of habits and identity. When you rely on motivation, you're operating from what psychologists call an extrinsic framework. You're trying to force yourself to do something. This creates internal resistance. Systems, however, align with intrinsic motivation by becoming part of who you are. This is where identity-based habits come into play. As James Clear explains, the most effective way to change your habits is to focus on who you want to become, not what you want to achieve. When you build systems, you're not just doing specific actions, you're becoming the type of person who does those things. For example, rather than relying on motivation to go to the gym, outcome-based thinking, you follow your exercise system because that's what healthy people do, identity-based thinking. The shift is subtle but profound. You're no longer asking, do I want to go to the gym today? But rather, am I the type of person who follows through on their commitments? Systems also capitalize on the psychological principle of cognitive ease. Decision-making depletes mental energy, but following predetermined systems eliminates these energy-draining choices. President Barack Obama famously wore only gray or blue suits to reduce decision fatigue. He explained, "I don't want to make decisions about what I'm eating or wearing because I have too many other decisions to make." By systematizing various areas of your life, you preserve mental energy for the decisions that truly matter. This is why Mark Zuckerberg wears the same style of clothes every day, and why Steve Jobs had his iconic uniform of a black turtleneck and jeans. These weren't just quirky habits. They were deliberate systems designed to eliminate unnecessary choices. Common systems mistakes to avoid. As powerful as systems are, there are common mistakes that can undermine their effectiveness. The first mistake is creating too many systems at once. Your willpower is still a limited resource, especially when building new habits. Start with one system, make it stick, then add another. Trying to overhaul your entire life overnight is a recipe for failure. The second mistake is designing rigid, perfectionist systems. Effective systems have built-in flexibility to accommodate the unpredictability of life. If your system demands perfect conditions, it will inevitably break down. The third mistake is confusing systems with goals. A goal is a destination. A system is the vehicle that gets you there. Many people focus too much on the destination. I want to lose 20 pounds. And not enough on the vehicle. I follow my exercise system regardless of how I feel. The system is what produces the results, not the goal itself. The fourth mistake is failing to evolve your systems. What works now may not work forever. Review and refine your systems regularly to ensure they remain effective as your life changes. Real-life examples of systems in action. Let's look at how successful people use systems rather than motivation. Stephen King has published over 60 novels, not because he's always motivated to write, but because he has a system. Writing 2,000 words every single day, including holidays, no exceptions. When asked about writer's block, King responded, "Amateurs sit and wait for inspiration. The rest of us just get up and go to work." Entrepreneur Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx and self-made billionaire, uses systems to maintain productivity. One of her systems involves calendar blocking, scheduling specific time blocks for different activities and treating them as non-negotiable appointments with herself. Her success didn't come from sporadic bursts of motivation, but from consistent systems that kept her moving forward even on difficult days. Kobe Bryant, renowned for his incredible work ethic, famously had a system of starting his training at 4 a.m. every day. He called it his 4 a.m. club. He didn't wait to feel motivated. His system demanded showing up regardless of feelings. Even in creative fields where people assume motivation and inspiration are essential, the most prolific creators rely on systems. Composer Ludwig van Beethoven started each day with the same ritual: making his coffee, counting out exactly 60 beans per cup, and then working on his compositions for several hours. Pablo Picasso maintained strict working hours in his studio, regardless of whether he felt inspired. In my own business, implementing systems transformed my results. Instead of working whenever motivation struck, which led to inconsistent output, I created systems for content creation, client outreach, and skill development. Every Monday is for content planning, Tuesday through Thursday for client work, and Friday for learning new skills. This systematic approach doubled my productivity and significantly reduced my stress, as I no longer relied on the fickle nature of motivation. How to transform motivation. Dependent areas into systems. Take a moment to identify areas in your life where you're currently relying on motivation. Is it fitness, work productivity, learning a skill, creative projects? Now, let's transform each of these into systems. For fitness, instead of waiting to feel motivated to exercise, create a system. I move my body for 20 minutes immediately after brushing my teeth each morning. The specific exercise can vary based on energy levels, but the time and trigger remain consistent. For work productivity, replace "I'll work hard when I feel inspired" with "I work on my most important task for 90 minutes every day before checking email." This system ensures consistent progress regardless of motivation levels. For learning, transform "I'll study when I'm in the mood" to "I spend 25 minutes learning immediately after dinner each evening." The consistency of this system will outperform even the most intense motivation-driven study sessions. For creative projects, instead of waiting for inspiration to strike, implement a system like I sit at my desk and work on my creative project for 45 minutes every day, whether ideas come easily or not. As Chuck Close famously said, inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and get to work. The key is to make your systems specific, triggered by existing habits, and sustainable over the long term. Remember, the initial resistance you feel when implementing systems is temporary, but the benefits are lasting. Maintaining your systems. Through challenges. Even with well-designed systems, you'll face challenges. Here's how to ensure your systems survive the inevitable obstacles. First, expect resistance. Your brain is wired to conserve energy and stick to familiar patterns. When you implement new systems, your brain will create resistance. Recognize this as normal neural pushback, not a sign that your system is wrong for you. Second, use the 2-day rule. Never miss your system 2 days in a row. This simple rule prevents temporary disruptions from becoming permanent abandonment. Life will occasionally interfere with your systems. The key is to bounce back immediately. Third, create external accountability. Tell others about your systems or find an accountability partner who expects you to follow through. External expectations can provide the additional structure needed when internal motivation wavers. Fourth, celebrate system adherence, not just outcomes. Did you follow your writing system today? That's a win, regardless of whether you wrote something brilliant or just showed up. By celebrating the process rather than just the product, you reinforce the system itself. Fifth, remember that systems compound. The daily actions may seem insignificant, but they accumulate into remarkable results. Trust the process even when progress seems slow. Conclusion. Motivation isn't bad. It's just unreliable as a primary strategy for long-term success. It's like trying to drive across the country on a single tank of gas. You might start with enthusiasm, but you'll inevitably stall. Systems, on the other hand, provide renewable energy. They don't depend on how you feel. They depend on what you've decided to do consistently. They transform sporadic effort into consistent progress. The most successful people aren't those with the most motivation. They're those with the most effective systems. They've learned to make progress regardless of their emotional state on any given day. So stop waiting to feel motivated. Stop chasing the emotional high of inspiration. Instead, build systems that make success inevitable. Start small, be consistent, and watch as steady progress replaces the roller coaster of motivation. The shift from motivation dependence to systems Thinking is one of the most powerful transformations you can make in your life. It's the difference between hoping for success and engineering it. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. If you found this approach helpful, hit subscribe for more evidence-based strategies to upgrade your life, and leave a comment telling me one area where you'll replace motivation with a system starting today.